Good morning and welcome. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping notes. First, we'll be recording this session, and an on-demand version will be made available via the DCW and 3D Repo websites post-event. Your mics and cameras are switched off, so don't panic and feel free to relax and enjoy the session. You will find a Q&A button on your screen on the toolbar. If you have questions for our panelists, please type them here. We've got quite a few speakers today, so if your question is directed to a particular speaker, please include that in your question, as that will help us direct and keep things moving along. And so without further ado, let's kick things off. My name is Ollie Hughes. I'm the co-founder of Digital Construction Week, and I'll be your host for today's virtual 3D Repo British Information Modelling event. In this session, we'll hear how the Unreal Engine and 3D Repo integration is being used for infinitely scalable 3D rendering and data delivery. We'll also learn about democratizing 3D and 4D BIM data across projects, and the most efficient approach to achieve ISO 19650. If that's not enough, we'll also get to see a couple of use cases from HOK and UK Cares and how they are using cloud-based BIM to improve productivity. I'd like to introduce our first speakers from a fantastic lineup. We have David John Gibbs, who is Digital Engineering and Compliance Manager at Gammon Construction. DJ is a Digital Engineering and Compliance Manager. He is part of the leadership team responsible for setting the digital strategy, implementing change, and ensuring that value is realised across their organisation. We also have Ken Atanacio, BIM Engineer at Gammon Construction. He has 11 years BIM experience and has worked on projects in Hong Kong, Europe, and the Philippines. We also have Lee Brankley, who is the CEO at UK Cares. Lee is widely regarded as one of the most knowledgeable international figures in the field of reinforcing steel's procurement, assurance, and sustainability performance. Since taking over as CEO, Lee has driven ahead with game-changing digitalisation strategy, which is underpinned by Care's cloud and complementary apps. We then have Clive Jordan, who is co-founder of Plannerly. Clive is a simple engineer turned contractor, turned architect, turned owner, turned lean addict tech co-founder for AECO, and believes that smart lean BIM can rid the world of evil BIM. We then have Shray Sharma, Senior Design Professional HOK. Shray is experienced design professional and with demonstrated history of working in the architecture and planning industry, with keen interests and formal education in building information modelling and lifecycle management. Last but not least, we have Brenlla, Senior UE4 Developer at AccuCities. Brais is the lead UE4 developer at a London-based 3D content provider of a wide area city models. His main job sees him taking those models and making apps out of them, software products that combine those detailed 3D assets with innovative tools that aim to make the lives of architects, developers, and planners that much easier. Now, without further ado, I will hand over to Shray Sharma to kick off our presentations.
Okay, you see my screen now? Can somebody confirm?
We have got you. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, hi, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. Very excited to present here what we are doing at HOK regarding with respect to 3D Repo and its use. So a brief introduction for myself. I am Shray Sharma, Senior Design Professional at HOK in Ottawa. And I have roughly about 10 years of experience in the industry with the last few years focused on BIM. So I'm going to talk about model validation, what we use 3D Repo for. And this use case is basically a historical restoration project where we were upgrading Revit models from 2018 version to 2021 version. And we required a software platform or basically something which could validate all the geometry which is in the 2018 model version goes when we upgrade it everything goes to 2021 version, which we were having issues with the previous Revit versions. We used to lose geometry and metadata. So 3D Repo in a way helped us validating everything that what we have in the 2018 version was able to get to the 2021 version. So we had roughly around like 35, 40 models, which is quite a lot to manage. And so we really needed something like a visual proof, which 3Repo helped us, in that. So without any further delay, I'll just go through the demonstration that I'm going to give today. So we'll first start with the 3Repo web app and creating a project on that. Then we'll see how we published from Revit directly to 3Repo web app, and then we'll use the 3Repo diff tool that they have, and then issue creation, and then extracting BCF, which can be used for in other platforms because we are using a different platform on this project for communicating issues. And then we can also connect 3Repo to Power BI, which gives us, metadata check for all the metadata within the model. So without any delay, I can go into the demo there. Okay. So this is how the 3Repo web app looks, and we're gonna go to the demo here, and I'm gonna switch this here. So this is how we create a project. We just create a model, and then I'll just name it like AR demo -1. And then I can select the units, which model units are millimeters in our case. And then this will be an architecture model, and it lets you choose all the disciplines if you wish to. So this is an architectural model, and then I can save, and boom, the folder is created here. And then I'll go into my Revit, and that's one of the models which we used on this project. Go to my 3D Repo plugin there, and then go to publish, and then select the relevant project where I want to upload this. So I'll go to ZDemo. So you don't see the new model that I created in the web app. So when I hit refresh, I see that. So that's one of the views I want to upload. I can maybe name it version 2021, and then description if I want to give any description. And for this demo, I'll keep it as very low and hit upload. So it'll process and keep on uploading. But for this demo purpose, I have already uploaded a couple of models here so that we don't waste time on that. So if you see, I had uploaded 2018 version and 2021 version. So let me go and open the 2018 version, give it a couple of seconds to load. So now it's 100% loaded. I can move around and do whatever I wish to do here. So since uh, both the version, if I were to show you here, so the 2018 and 2021 version match completely. So what I did, just to show here for demo purpose, like how the comparison tool work, I have uploaded a new which has some deleted geometry in it, so that we can see how the tool really works. So I'll compare the 2018 with the 2021 new and hit the compare tool here. Give it a second. There you go. So what it shows, like what has moved or what has been deleted. So it clearly highlights, within the model, what changes have been made between two versions. So our purpose was to use it for geometry validation, whether we have everything, going from 2018 to 2021. And then I can always see what is in the base model, which is in case it's 2018, and what is in the target model, which is 2021. So you would notice like the wall has moved and stuff like that, right? So, and it gives you very clearly highlighted in colors and stuff like that. So for the purpose, I deleted the railing here. And if I go to the target model, you'll see this thing is missing. and it's there in the base model. So what I can do is I can go here, close this tool here, and then go here in the issues tab and create an issue. Say railing missing 2021 version. And then maybe I can add a pin here and add an image. It gives me save. And then I can assign, I can set the priority, whatever I want. Set as open, assign to an architect maybe. And then it's a diff issue. So there's a difference between the two versions. And then I can set a date, maybe 31st. So once I do that, since we are not using 3Repo on this project as a communication tool for issues, so I can export a BCF and then import it into my other platform which we are using on this project. So that way, it's quite convenient to, it is easier for somebody to look into, different tools. And then within 3Repo, like if there are elements which are not, within what you don't see visually over here, we can always go into the model and then cross verify anything which might not be visible like right away. So I can do this, and then I can slice the model and then get a deeper dive into the model, whether everything has been transferred in the new version of the Revit upgrade. Okay, so I'm gonna go. So the last thing that I'm gonna show is the Power BI connection that 3Repo enables us to do. So let me just, I'm pulling up a Power BI application right now. Okay, so there you go. So what we have here is a Power BI application where it gives us the total number of work sets, and we can always customize this, and we can always modify this the way this thing looks and the information that is providing us. So if you see between the two versions, I have the exact number of elements, but since I did add another model by deleting some stuff and moving some stuff, so what I'll do is I'll connect that new model to this Power BI application. So what I'll do, I'll go here. First, I can go to my profile. I need to copy the API key, which will go in Power BI. And then I need to grab the model, so which is resting here. So I can copy that. So once I do that, it will start updating. So it's updating the, it's querying the model there from 3Repo, and then it'll upgrade whatever information it seeks or gets from the web app of 3Repo. So once it's done, it will give me a new graphic over there. So there you see three models now, and then you would see there's a difference between the 2018 model versus 2021 model. So that's how we validated whatever we wanted to validate, and this gave us peace of mind in terms of, okay, so now we have upgraded everything and everything is there in the new version, and design team can work on the project. So yeah, that's it for me, and I can pass it to DJ now and stop presenting myself.
Hi everyone. Let me just get this presentation up. So just to confirm, everybody can see the screen okay?
All good, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks very much.
So, hi everyone, and yeah, welcome to our presentation on 3D repo at Gammon, or I should probably say 3D repo in Hong Kong. So yeah, Ken and I are based out here in Hong Kong, working for a main contractor called Gammon. And we're going to share a little bit about how we've been using 3D repo to help boost safety and productivity on our sites. So I'm joined with Ken, who's one of the BIM engineers, and I'm David John, or DJ, as everybody knows me. I work in head office, but Ken's the real guy on the site doing the work. So I thought it'd be great to get him involved and for him to offer his perspective on how it's happening on the site, as well as me offering a bit of an overview as to how we're embracing it at Gammon. So I imagine many of you on the call are from the UK and may not be familiar with Gammon. So as a very, very quick introduction, we're a main contractor in Hong Kong. We employ over 7,000 people. Actually, I think on the projects we've got at the moment, it's way over 7,000. But perhaps most interestingly for you that are from the UK, we're joint owned by Alpha BT. So they have a 50% stake in Gammon, and also a conglomerate called Jardine Matheson out here in Asia. So it's a real interesting 50-50 split, and we've still got the ties back to the UK. But we pride ourselves on being the smart and digital contractor of choice out here in Hong Kong. So and Singapore. So we really, really push digital ways of working to embrace all the different types of projects that we deliver. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see the complexity of Hong Kong. We've got pretty insane roads and infrastructure and bridges. We've got islands. We've got high rises. You know, it's not uncommon for a residential tower to be over 30 stories high. You've got mountains, you've got dockyards. We really build everything to support that infrastructure. Now, one of our biggest solo contract to date is valued at £1.3 billion, and we're building an airport terminal out for Hong Kong Airport. But today we're going to be talking to you about how we're using 3D repo on one of our manufacturing centres. So I can't give the exact details of this project, but the generals will give you the gist. It's in the mega project camp. It's well over £500 million. The shape you can see on the right hand side is quite linear. It's a very, very big area, over 9 floors with some basements and quite complex connectivity. But as a manufacturing centre, as you would expect, it has very, very complex MEP services. And our approach to the job is actually a very strong push for DFMA, or design for manufacture and assembly. So on this job, over 75% of the modules, MEP modules, over 75% of the MEP work was modularized, and over 25% of the superstructure was also modularized. So a really, really big push. Now, to embrace these new modern methods of construction, we needed to take advantage of the digital tools and the new ways of working, and to make sure that they were safe for assembly, and also that we could do it in an efficient manner. So we worked really closely with the team to look at what tools we'd bring together, how we'd coordinate that data, and how the project team would use that. So this is a photo from one of our training sessions with the project team. So this isn't isolated to the BIM team. You can see in the top left-hand corner, you've got Ken and some of the BIM team. The gentleman sitting closest to the camera is actually the lead engineer on the job. The chap in the far right is the commercial team. And we all came together to discuss how we're going to bring all of this data together and how we're going to use it, particularly focused on safety, but also to help with sequencing. I should also note in that room, we've got some of the subcontractors, as well as younger engineers, quantity surveyors, planners, and so forth. So it really, really was a team effort. Now, I'll hand over to Ken now, and he can share a little bit about what that coordinated data looked like on the site and how it was used.
Good day, everyone. My name is Ken. I represent the BIM team in Gammon. I'm also one of the BIM engineers in a manufacturing center project in Hong Kong. So as you can see in the screen, at the start of the project, I was basically just involved in 3D design, 3D production. But as the project progresses, I'm assigned to the task in collaborating all of this information like 3D design, plant details, the schedules, the logistics, the safety, method statement, in order to have a 3D representation of all of this information, in order to have a more collaborative discussion during our meetings. So in this next image, this is one of the first outputs that we uploaded in 3D Repo using Navisworks. So basically, you can see here just one of the steps in installing a certain step in a certain location in our project. So in this next image, as the 3D Repo has some improvements and updates, we can directly upload the 4D simulation from Synchro up to 3D Repo. Then we can have more innovative and interactive in meetings in order for us to come up with certain issues and safety risks that can be resolved during our meetings. So I'll hand over back to DJ.
So, when we're tracking or marking up these 3D and 4D environments, it's really great because all of that information is centralized in a database, and we've got a nice audit trail to show what we looked at over time and what changes were made. Now, when we're in a workshop, we often get asked, well, what do these workshops look like? And we call them 4D workshops, but we're using 3D Repo as the mechanism to document the discussions. So this is actually something we did over a year ago. Surprising, actually, when Ken and I were there, just putting this presentation together earlier. And what we've got here is one of the operations team talking about how the plant and equipment should be arranged on the site and how it should, and the safe environment with the barriers and the steel. So in this meeting, you can see that we're marking up 3D Repo in the environment. I think that might be me on the keyboard there. As well as the operations, we've got the BIM team, we've got the planner in the far right, and in that room behind, we've got the planners, logistic managers, safety. Everybody's having an input and contributing. Now, it's great when we're in the physical environment, and as you can see here, Ken, from the BIM side, the BIM perspective, he's asking the operations team, really, how are we going to build this? You know, we want to be safe, so we want to be sure that how we're going to construct it digitally before we actually get out there into the physical world. And all of this information is documented in 3D Repo. We can get the dashboards, which I'll show you shortly, and we can communicate it to different members of the team. Now, unlike, I guess, traditional kind of BIM deliverables, where you look at the final physical asset, we've obviously gone that extra step to model the extra detail for the construction phase. So we're involved in the constructability, and we need to put in everything we need in order to make these digitally, to make these reviews successful. Now, there's one thing it being used for management. The next thing is, how do we really communicate that to the site teams, the operations team on the site? Now, not all of them have access to these environments or to tablets to review it. So we recycle that data, and we still, you know, we put it into paper as well as having the digital form, and we create these visual method statements and plaster them around our sites. So in terms of improving safety, it's gone through all the reviews. We've had our 4D sequencing to make sure that we're happy with the overall sequence. We'll go into 3D Repo to look at the pain points and to identify change and responsibilities and make sure those updates are made. And once we've agreed that sequence, it's communicated to the teams in a variety of different measures, one of which is putting these method statements around the site so everyone's clear. What we're also just embarked on, which is quite exciting, is bringing 3D Repo into a BIM cave environment, an immersive environment. And yesterday we actually opened and launched our BIM cave on the left-hand side. So we've got it in, we've got the dashboards as well as the 3D model. And in that you can see our executive director for the building division, as well as the permanent secretary for works out here in Hong Kong. So, and then on the right hand side, you can see 3D Repo's demo Lego house and really how they worked really closely with us to get their data into the environment so we can help improve engagement with our different teams. So really, really happy to be working with 3D Repo. Will soon to be announced officially a strategic partnership between Gammon, Digital G and 3D Repo in the region, and really look forward to bringing more 3D Repo to Gammon and the rest of Hong Kong. I'll hand over now to Clive and look forward to answering any of your questions at the end of the session. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, DJ. Thanks, guys. Should I be able to share my screen?
Yeah, that's coming through to you now, mate.
There you go. Cool. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I've
Thanks,
got it.
Clive. Yeah.
Cool. So we're more on the technology side. It's great seeing those use cases and the 4D and the model comparison and being able to really use 3D Repo in a communication perspective. I'm going to share a bit more about how we get there and how we structure the data so that it's really in a useful format that can be then validated later on. This is an example of a dashboard, again, using Power BI, but the data coming from the structured requirements in Plannerly, and then compared to the models that are aggregated inside of 3D Repo. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of Power BI dashboards, but let me go into my presentation and walk us through. Please connect if you would like to find out more about what I'm sharing, but the workflow that we'll be going through is much more about the standardization of workflow and process and related to the ISO 19650 standards and workflow when it comes to information management. If we get all of that right, we can set up a streamlined workflow to be able to validate using 3D Repo and also Power BI, and that's what we'll culminate in here. We all know that BIM is used for so many different things, so we end up with lots of different requirements for models, and because there's so many different people involved in that workflow, everyone from the appointing party through the architect, engineer, contractor, etc. There's lots of different views of what BIM should be at different stages. And even though one BIM might be useful for one team at one time, if we don't define those requirements using level of information need and using the frameworks that the ISO 19650 guidance puts out, then we might be creating too much BIM or too little BIM. And so this happens all the time where we end up with duplicate effort, and maybe there's model elements that are created by more than one team, and that duplicate effort causes rework and causes waste. And all of these challenges that we suffer from in our industry, everything from missing information to out of sequence work to just not having the information at the right time maybe. And so this is a tough, we're in this really tough industry, and big challenge, but in comes ISO 19650. So the whole principle about having a standard way of communicating is that we can have this unified information management approach that everyone starts to ask and deliver in a way that can be repeatable. It can cut out all of the confusion and waste in our industry. So there are processes that are related to ISO 19650, and I won't go into the details, but each of those 8 steps can be unpacked into a workflow. And each of the workflows has documents that are required to make it work. And they range from setting out strategic objectives from an organization through to project, through to exchange and BIM execution planning for who's responsible for what at what point in time, what the tasks are, how to merge them, how to provide the flow of information, understand who's responsible, accountable, consultant, informed. So there are many different documents that need to be managed, and we end up managing in lots of different tools. The problem is that lots of teams are overwhelmed by this, and so if you are overwhelmed by all of that workflow to try to get to structured data, have no fear, you're not the only ones. But we're really focused on how do we improve that? How do we help to standardize that workflow? The first thing that we have seen massive commitment from teams around the world on is having review teams creating templates. So one of the things that starts you off on the right foot is creating from a template that has already been curated by teams around the world. So these are available, and if you are an expert, we beckon you to join the templates team to keep reviewing and improving them. But as you work and select those templates from anything from the OIR through the PIR, EIR, BEP, etc., we're creating more structured data. And these documents start to help teams to understand how to carry out work. But then also, more importantly, when we get to the modeling side of things and also documentation, it's structured data so that teams can assign responsibilities at specific times and know that a model being delivered for potentially an asset information model at a specific point in time has to have certain elements. Managing teams as you go through that workflow and being able to manage whether they are prospective teams or project teams, controlling access to all of that data, and then being able to filter appointment documents so that teams know exactly what they should be doing as well, and having a structured way to deliver that. And then also, an agreement has to have a signature, so some digital and a way that people can have a legally binding signature to make sure that teams deliver it. And then that all culminates in people delivering a model. So what we've seen as a great partnership with 3D Repo is us creating a structured set of data, and then customers that are able to use 3D Repo for the best of the communication and for understanding what model deliverables they are providing and producing. And then in 3D Repo, and also the combination of our beloved friend Excel exporting and also Power BI, we're able to combine that data into a form that can be checked and starting to validate, as we saw in some of the other presentations as well, a lot of the use of 3D Repo and Power BI. So ours is more of a call to action. If you are working and you are an expert in the industry and you would like to assist in the templates and review team, then please do. And if you're looking for more structured data and a way to be able to combine that with validating and verifying using 3D Repo, then please get in touch, please reach out. And if you have questions, throw them into the chat in the Q&A, and we will get to them at the end. So hopefully I was within time, and I will hand over to Lee. I will make you presenter now, Lee.
Thank you very much, Clive. And can you see my screen okay, Ollie?
Thanks, Lee. Yes, you just need to share in slideshow, I guess, but we've got your screen.
Thank you very much. I'm Lee Brankley, and I'm the CEO of CARES. CARES is the leading conformity assessment body for assessing the quality of reinforcing steel used in major construction projects in the UK and many other markets that have already been mentioned today, such as Hong Kong, Singapore, and numerous countries throughout the Middle East as well. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to share with you today my presentation on what the change that has taken place in the conformity assessment space and what is really sort of driving that change. Well, the challenges of the past year have accelerated our desire to digitalise, and we're already seeing what's happening in the construction sector. And I believe as a conformity assessment body, it's important for us to also make that journey from being a paper-based system to a digital system, because we all know that the construction projects are very complex. They involve many companies, people, different systems and processes. But I believe our opportunity now is to understand how we enable that transition to a wholly digital process by connecting the supply chain to the project, by connecting clouds. And providing independent assurance evidence about the products that are used in those construction projects. So this process map of reinforcement really illustrates the complexity and the scale of the challenge that we are facing to digitalize the whole process. And as you can see from this process map, there are really three interconnecting processes. Firstly, we have the governing processes in the blue color, and then we have enabling processes in the reddish brown color. And finally, we have what we refer to there as the core processes, which is shown in the green color. So firstly, let's have a closer look at the governing processes. The key outcomes to be achieved are resilient, safe structures from a user perspective, and also from a structural perspective. And to achieve these outcomes requires compliance to the design codes, as we can see at the top left there, the code of practice for the design Euro codes 0, 1 or 2 as applicable, and also the workmanship standards, and importantly as well, the material standards, such as BS 449 for the reinforcing steel. But also it's important to understand the provenance of those safety critical products in the built asset. One safety critical structural product is reinforcing steel, often referred to as rebar. Secondly, there are the enabling processes in the reddish brown color, and essentially they are data-based information sharing processes around the scheme design, the construction sequence, the rebar detailing, the cool-off process, to name but a few. And then in the thirdly, we have in the green color what we refer to as the core processes. And these core processes evolve around the physical product, the rebar itself. And that starts with the raw materials, the rebar production process, through the manufacture, distribution, along the whole supply chain, through to the processing by the cutting and bending companies. And as one of our earlier speakers mentioned, we're seeing much greater use of DFMA, which in terms of the reinforcement supply chain really refers to prefabricated welded assemblies. And the CARES assured supply chain starts at the manufacturing stage there, where we assess the capability of the producer to produce the reinforcing steel to the specified standard, which is in this case is BS 449. And once a manufacturer has achieved CARES approval, they are then audited every 6 months, and samples of the product are taken and tested both at the manufacturer's facilities and also at independent laboratory. So I believe it's one of the most rigorous and robust systems for ensuring the quality of a safety critical product such as reinforcing steel. And then more recently, we have also developed a sustainability scheme, which has a key element of it is the environmental product declaration, which has the carbon footprint data as well. So our collective challenge is to digitalize and connect these discrete steps and the assets within the construction project to the material supply chain. In terms of that physical product and the assurance and compliance evidence for a safety critical product such as rebar, which is very much being referred to now as the sort of golden thread information coming from the Hackett review. And I'm pleased to announce today that CARES is the lead partner in a UK research and innovation funded project to investigate the feasibility of digitising this whole process. Our partners in the feasibility project are 3D Repo, Borough Happold and Midland Steel Supplies, who are a CARES approved reinforcement fabricator based in the UK. And the CARES assured supply chain provides that visible link between the material standard, the physical product and its associated evidence of compliance. As I mentioned at the beginning, and as of now, that evidence is currently being provided in a paper-based system. And we are looking to move towards a completely digital process using a cloud-based platform referred to as the CARES Cloud. And we have a suite of associated apps to connect and input the information that is then held within the CARES Cloud. As our intention is to ensure that the right people have the right information at the right time, to ensure the buildings are safe, the authenticity is assured, and building safety risks are managed throughout the building's life cycle by making that information available throughout the whole life of the building. And taken together, these elements contribute to that golden thread of information. So let me just share with you some of the things we have done so far on our own digital journey. To ensure that the CARES certificate of approval that is issued to each of the CARES approved companies on an annual basis, we have introduced a static QR code such that you can then scan the static QR code to check a number of key items on the CARES certificate of approval from that particular manufacturer or process, as the case may be. And then once you scan that static QR code, you can be confident that that is an authentic certificate of approval. And recently, even in the UK, we have seen an example of a fake certificate being presented to a particular project. So it's really important that that check is undertaken when you're presented with a certificate of approval. And then moving on to look at CARES' unique traceability system. CARES has been operating now for over 40 years, and from the very beginning, we established a system of identifying the reinforcing steel itself to the particular manufacturer. And that system is really as simple as 1, 2, 3. Look for the CARES mark on the product, the dot dash dot, followed by a number of specified ribs for the country, and then a second set of ribs for the mill in that particular country. So you can go to any construction site that has specified CARES approved reinforcement. You can go to the reinforcement on site, pick it up and identify it by going to the CARES Cloud app and inputting the country, the CARES mark, the country code and the mill in that country. And then you can see it's come from the CARES approved source. And by specifying CARES approved products, clients and procurers can be confident that the product will comply with the product standard and also have trust in the supply chain that delivered that product to the site. By using the CARES Cloud, it is a trusted digital traceability system all the way from the source to the site. And it really provides that ultimate level of assurance in terms of confidence in the product quality, the authenticity of the certificate, and that provenance information as well, by using the CARES Cloud app, which is freely available from the App Store and from Google Play. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope I've been on time as well, and I'm very happy to pass over to Brais, who's our next presenter.
Thank you very much, Lee. I think I am now presenting my screen. And good morning, everyone. I'm Brenlla, and I'm the lead Unreal Engine 4 developer at AccuCities. Today, we're going to be talking about Plan City, a real-time application tool, and the plugin that 3D Repo has released for the Unreal Engine. So let me leave you with a quick video while I talk about this. But before that, though, a little bit of background information as to who we are, who is AccuCities, and what do we produce as a company. We are first and foremost a 3D mapping agency, and we focus on creating very accurate 3D models of the built environment. So our models are very accurate. We say to 15 centimeters. They are accurate to 15 centimeters in any given axis. And this is across the entirety of the areas that we cover, right? Which usually focus around cities. That you're seeing on the screen, it's we have London in the background at the moment. This is something very useful for all of the clients that we usually work with, as highly accurate models are important for a wide variety of purposes. Construction companies, architects, planners, MEP consultancies, all of those areas where accurate models might benefit from. We try to provide readily available models for anyone who might benefit from having access to an accurate depiction of the built environment, so that they can do their work in a more accurate and simple way. But beyond that, we also take those models and use them to create the interactive 3D app that you're seeing. And that enables users to visualize what we've created and also inspect and work with the data that we provide, as well as other data sources that we can get our hands on. The idea is to create something on top of the 3D models that we produce, a product that takes advantage of our raw data and provides services on top of it, from visualizing all the data sources to creating tools that work alongside it. And examples of that would be things like the Future Skyline, which is a database that we curate ourselves, where we capture the buildings that are gonna appear in the future, and we display that through Plan City. Then we also have other tools beyond data, where we take the models that we create ourselves and do things with that. So, for example, the viewshed analysis, which enables users to determine the visual impact of a given building across its surrounding areas. We put all of those ideas together and create a product called Plan City. So what is Plan City exactly? What is the app about? We call it a quick site evaluation app, one that lets you navigate and visualize the model, as you saw before, in a variety of different ways, from the point of view of a pedestrian to that of a drone, and one where you can see what the data looks like by itself, but also in combination with other feeds that we can tap into. I mentioned the Future Skyline before, but you can also bring in different pieces of legislation and building regulations, historical data like protected buildings or sites. Then we can also tap into live data feeds, for example, traffic cameras or bus and rail information, and many others. We do, as I mentioned before, also create tools that might benefit our clients, such as the builder one or the viewshed that I showed before. And what this does in the end is it creates a product that allows users to view the area that they might be working in and compare that and check that site against all the regulations and everything that might apply in there. On top of that, we are also constantly looking for other ways to improve our app. And in our search for other interesting tools, we came across 3D Repo and their very interesting BIM platform on the cloud. So, my colleagues before talked about what 3D Repo was. I just wanted to do a quick recap on those things that are important or that could benefit Plan City and its development. So let me take a look at those features. First, 3D Repo offers a robust 3D model version control system, which works wonders in terms of allowing users to upload several versions, as you saw before, several versions of their designs, and always have the latest update readily available. So if they want to download a model into Plan City, all that they need to do is integrate the plugin within Plan City and download it that way. You know, apart from that, another great thing that 3D Repo offers is optimizing those BIM models. As you saw before, they can oftentimes be very complex. And 3D Repo takes care of optimizing them when they are uploaded to the repository. So that reduces the burden on our end in terms of displaying those models in a real-time environment, which is, as a developer, a great thing to have. And things that that we saw before as well, I think with Shray, when he was talking about things like the tracking issues or the safety concerns that you can add to the models that you upload to 3D Repo, those can, you know, you can bring those over to Plan City as well through this plugin, and that's just great to have, because all the data and all the things that you get in 3D Repo, most of them can be brought into Plan City, and that's just that's just great. So with all of that in mind, we started to think about how we could integrate Plan City, what Plan City does with what 3D Repo offers. We thought that the synergies were already in place just by looking at what each of us do at the moment, and combining our navigation and visualization techniques with the assets that we can download from 3D Repo, or using our tools and the models that we fetch from there, is kind of like a natural extension to the existing app. Also, the wide file format support and the optimization that I mentioned before are just great in terms of bringing those models to life and enabling this plugin. And with all of that in place, we are taking a look at two main avenues to work with the plugin at the moment. Two main avenues. One where we let users download our models through the integration, and a second one where the models that that you as a user might have already uploaded, you can download those as well. And that's great. I mean, for us, we think that can be very helpful for both us as developers to provide our models, and also for a specific client that might need to download BIM models, and they don't have to worry about things like optimizing the models for a real-time game engine or having a specific model on their machine. They have it always available. So talking about us, that first case, how does it benefit us for example, in terms of delivering our models? Well, so far we can say that we've bundled all the data that we create along a particular version of Plan City. So for example, if you're a subscriber to London or to Dublin, you get Plan City Dublin. If you're a subscriber to Birmingham, you get the data for that city, as well as the app. By using the plugin opens up the possibility to also share some of the small areas that we capture through custom versions of our app that simply download the data that they need from the repository, rather than having it hard-coded when we ship it. So this makes it easier for us as developers to manage our existing libraries, for example, and keep the number of projects in check, which is great in terms of developing these multiple apps. On top of that, we also envision using the plugin to let, as I mentioned before, to let our users download their models into the app. Because if they have access to the free repo account, they can use that to just log in and retrieve the models that they might have already uploaded there, without worrying about whether they have a particular file on the machine or if the format of that file is supported by the app, right? And this is something that we can already do as things stand. So let me just quickly jump into a video where we did just that. Here we go. So first of all, what you're seeing on the screen is a custom Plan City app where we've enabled the free repo plugin. We're going to access it through the tools menu, and we simply need to provide our username and password for our account to log into it. The username that I'm typing there is just a fake one, so don't try to yeah. And once inside, you'll see that we have access to these different projects, and those projects are the ones that I've uploaded on my end to 3D repo, right? There are different categories, and then we can enter inside each of those to retrieve the different models, just like you would if you were a client. Then it's just a matter of choosing one of those proposals or one of those models, and the app takes care of downloading it into Plan City and showing it there. This would be an early example of how we envision it working, and the route that we would follow for our clients, and that's pretty much it. These are very simple examples, but just like we saw before with other more complex designs, those are easily accessible as well. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we can also download our own models from the cloud, which is what you're looking at right now. And just like we did for the smaller proposals before, whole tiles can get loaded without an issue into the app as well. This is something that we're very happy to be exploring, and that we'll definitely include in future releases. And as I mentioned before, this is a great way to provide models, quick access to our models through the app. Oops. There we go. And yeah, that's everything from me. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any doubts or questions, feel free to send them our way. We'd be more than happy to answer them. And with that said, I'll hand over the presentation back to Ollie. There you go. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Brais. Thank you. Thanks to all of our speakers. As Brais mentioned, we've got some time for a Q&A at the end still. We've had some questions dropping in, so thank you very much. You've still got a chance to put some more into the panel. So while you're looking at that and your questions, we've got a couple more polls that I'm going to share. And actually, we're going to kick this one as well to our panelists. So have a think about that yourselves, guys, as well, while we're waiting. The question is, on a project, what is the biggest outstanding BIM-related issue? I guess we've seen some fantastic presentations, some really innovative technologies and uses of, but do we often forget, you know, how far along this journey are? So I'm interested to hear from the panel, so you as well, once our audience have voted. On the Q&A, we have a few questions that are possibly a bit more technically minded, and will be better off placed getting one of the technical team from 3D Repo to answer. So there's a few questions in there, but do not worry, we will come back to you and answer those more directly, rather than putting our speakers on the spot just now. A couple of questions. Yes, the presentations will be recorded. We will be receiving an email from Digital Construction Week shortly with our roundup on demand webinars, and you'll be able to access the session via that email. So I'll throw the question to start with out to our panelists, if you're willing. I guess, Shray, if you don't mind us starting with you, around what you see as the biggest outstanding BIM-related issue that you experience on projects. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is what to model and when to model. That's what there's always a challenge to the teams, you know, as we always end up sometimes modeling more than required and sometimes less than what is required. So that's the challenge, I think, when to model and what to model. So yeah.
Fair enough. And then perhaps DJ and Ken over in Hong Kong, how about from your side? Interested to hear your take on some slightly different projects as well it seems to be working on.
Yeah, engagement with the data and the models in my perspective. So there's some great stuff, but then some people still want to go through, run parallel processes, or go through like get it out into the formats that aren't as useful for proactive management, let's say. So yeah, but I think a lot of it comes down to training. Actually, I think it can be resolved. It takes time, but yeah, we're getting there.
Lee, any takes from your side, from I guess a kind of supply chain perspective in some regards? Oh, 1 second, let's get your...
Yeah, can you unmute me? Thank you very much. Yeah, I think as many other speakers have mentioned earlier on, I think the very important thing is to engage with the supply chain early in the process, to understand, from our perspective, the assurance evidence that is required in terms of providing that certification from both the manufacturers of the rebar, but more importantly as well from the processors of the rebar, the ones that are cutting and bending it. Also, we're seeing much more welding of reinforcement, and clearly the welding of the reinforcement needs to be very carefully controlled to ensure that the welded joints are of the right quality, and also things like mechanical coupling systems as well. It's very important that they also have the product certification, so that you can have the confidence in using those. I think there's a much greater need for collaboration, and early engagement will enable us to properly connect the supply chain and the site to provide that information in the required formats.
Perfect. Clive, Brais, any sort of final thoughts from you both?
Not from me. I mean, we usually work with BIM models more of in a position of receiving the models and showing them and dealing with them, but we are not very active in terms of creating them. Yes. So yeah, I wouldn't have a lot of insight into that.
I just reinforce what Shray said about understanding who does what when. I think that we are struggling still with the basics, and having a plan in place that's planned early enough so that teams know who should do what at what point in time, and they know that they're responsible and they're capable of delivering, and that when they deliver, there is actually a customer ready to receive what they're producing. That whole kind of workflow, yeah, tightening that is what's slightly broken, but not unfixable, and yeah, provides a lot of value when you get it right.
Amazing, perfect. Well, we've got just a couple more quick polls. We'll push them out for the audience so you can have a response to that. So the next one is, when engaging with data, what is your preferred platform? Desktop, web, cloud-based, or mobile or tablet? So we'll get take on that, and then we've got a couple of questions for each of the presenters, which we'll get through shortly now. DJ and Ken, we'll start with you. We have a question, and the question is, can you give more details on that immersive environment by Gammo? How is the interaction, and what type of information is available? I believe that's linked to your BIM cube and what you've got there. How are you using that system? Where are you finding the real benefits from it? Oh, let's get you off mute. There you go.
Cheers. We've recently got the BIM cave and the immersive environment. So we got lots of different plans for it. The data we're getting data into the BIM cave isn't always as straightforward as you'd think. And that's why it was actually a pleasure working with 3D Repo, because they just helped us get it in really easy. So that was challenge number one, and actually that was quite easily resolved from working with them. Our plan is to do for contractors, so particularly look at constructability. So get those temporary works, get those situations, particularly high risk and repetitive tasks, look at them in a lot of detail. Now, in terms of interaction, it's quite interesting, because I think, like, my earlier bit was getting people to engage with the data. Now, when people open, say, a Navisworks file, they still get overwhelmed with how many buttons there are, and the 3D is just not that familiar, and they'll want someone to steer. But often they'll want to get involved with the data, but they won't want to hassle someone, or they're too busy somewhere else. What we like with the cave is you get everybody in, and you don't even have to stand. We can put chairs around the outside, and people can sit, but you can get real one-to-one scale if you want, and get in and understand where the workers are going to be, what that sequence is going to be like. The enhancements we're about to make involve touch sensors, so it's all LED panels, the ones that we've got. I know there's projector options, stuff like that, and we recognise that we want people instinctively want to get involved and to touch it, and it's a bit annoying if you've got a mouse and how you engage with that. So the cave providers just developed that solution for us, and we're about to have that installed. So that will be a great upgrade to improve that interaction with the different site teams. I'm looking forward, so a lot for planning, design reviews. There's actually been some talk about doing it for inspections as well, remote inspections. So we're on the path now to get the data in there and really build up those use cases. Like, we're pretty new, but we're pretty excited at the same time.
Sounds fantastic. Really exciting to see. Maybe a long plane journey, but it would be brilliant to get you to demonstrate that at the show come November at some point.
Sure.
But we'll look at some plane tickets and some COVID restrictions first. Maybe next year. We've got just our final poll, and then I'll kind of brief the questions. So I'm going to launch this now for the attendees. And the question is, who could most benefit from improvement in BIM workflows? Client, contractor, consultants, or does it just depend on contract type? And while we've got that open, I'm going to throw a question. Initially, probably I think it's coming your way, Clive, but I wonder whether Shray or any of our other attendees have a view on it as well. And a statement as much as a question, really. Doesn't ISO 19650 feel like it's been written by people that don't actually work on projects? Clive, I wonder if you've got any take on how it comes across, the interpretation, or any sort of challenges that you've had with.
Yeah, certainly it's not simple for everyone to read, and I think that I mean, just to kind of put it into perspective, if you know, people are trying to digest this amount of paper, it's not going to happen. And so I think that, you know, as digital implementers, as people that are helping and assisting, it's their role to really take all of that burden away from their teams and implement. And it's really just the workflow that everyone does anyway. So everyone procures work. There is a tendering process. The fact that they're called the appointing party or lead appointed party, etc. Yeah, it can confuse, but there is an understanding that in order for everyone to speak the same language, it has to be the same language. And so standards are written because there is terminology that can be accepted and easily translated, and that sometimes becomes a problem when it's not the common language, when we call them the client or the owner, or so that, yeah, there are lots of stumbling points, and that's been our focus for the last few years, is making it easier for teams and making it something that you don't have to have all that jargon that goes with it. So yeah, it's a great statement, and I think that the point that everyone should be focused on is making it easier for teams to implement something that's valuable and a workflow that makes sense. So yeah.
Anyone else thoughts on that? I think well put, Clive, to be fair. I don't know if anyone else has any takes.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It's a you know, it's a big industry and it's an international standard, and it needs to be general. And I think it's hard because people want the specifics of their, you know, MEP installation on a rail project with all their acronyms, and you're not going to get that. But like Clive was saying, like as a starting point for that language, and then you can translate it into what your teams understand. I think it's good. The flow charts, the diagrams, you know, I work out here in Hong Kong, we follow ISO 19650. It works. You know, just the movement of information and how it's expected to transfer with the gateways, I think is just invaluable. It sometimes gets a bit, people when they present it can be overcomplicated for the audience, but everybody needs to know their part, and I think if you get the right people communicating the right message, it works a treat.
We actually have a couple of resources just to plug them. You can find them on plannerly.com very easily, but there's a webinar series and then some simple flowchart diagrams that take everything that's packaged up and put it in a more streamlined, easier to digest, that people don't have to read every single letter of the standard as well.
Amazing.
Going on there and trying to find it now.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, I'm sure do get in touch on socials as well if you have further questions for any of the panelists. We've got 2 more questions before we wrap up. I think we're sort of running to time. Lee, this is one for you, and I guess a sensitive subject in a lot of ways, come out of the back of supply chain and the whole piece around the Hackett review and Golden Thread. And the question is does UK Cares certification entail any witnessing of certification testing? The inquiry showed that such certificates for testing houses can be falsified and test rigged. Obviously a bit of a concerning one, but is there any element of your certification that covers that area?
Absolutely, yes. I think Cares is probably one of the most robust and rigorous product certification systems, because when a manufacturer of reinforcing steel applies for Cares approval, we send a team of auditors to the mill, and they audit the manufacturer's ISO 9001 quality management system. And then we also take extensive samples from their production. And those samples are witness tested in their own testing facilities. And during that process, we ensure that the equipment that is used is properly calibrated. Those calibration certificates are traceable to national standards. And a duplicate set of samples are sent to an independent laboratory nominated by Cares, and they are always a UCAS accredited laboratory or equivalent. So once again, that laboratory is fully competent in testing that product to that particular standard. And then once the company is approved by us and that issued a certificate of approval, the maintenance of approval process is again very rigorous, whereby every 6 months we audit the company again, and then we take further samples for testing, both within their facilities and again at the independent test laboratory. So it's a very rigorous ongoing process to ensure that the product that they're manufacturing, the reinforcing steel, is in compliance with the standard.
Unmute myself now. Thank you for that. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Lee. In control or not. Final question, Brais, this one for you, more specifically around Plan City. The question is it based on precise geolocation data? So if the user's model is also precisely geolocated, the insertion, is it seamless and automatic? Are you running off the same data?
Yeah, so all of our models are created according to the British National Grid. So they're all geo-referenced across the entirety of the cities that we work with. So for example, in the UK, we work with the British National Grid. For example, in Ireland, we work with the system that they use over there. And yeah, it's very simple to just drag and drop your designs if you can position them accurately according to the British National Grid or any other systems, then it should be just a matter of it is really easy. Something else that a testament to that was actually one of the trials that we did just a month ago with now that we are creating a texture model, we put the shard using in 3D Repo, and you know that in 3D Repo you might know that there's a GIS, there's the capability to input the GIS position of your project. So we did that and used the base map that you have over there, 3D Repo, alongside one of the texture models, and they just came in the right position as expected, but it's still nice to see it. So it could be the case that it should be fairly simple. And if you wanted to combine our models, for example, with the Revit file that you're using, and you have a base point for that, then it should be a matter of just dumping it into 3D Repo and it should just work. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much. That's probably all we've got time for. As I say, if there's a few more technical questions, the 3D Repo team will be getting back to you separately. That just leaves me enough to say thank you for joining us, and thank you very much to all of our fantastic speakers today, Shray, Brais, DJ, Ken, Clive and Lee. Thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you all in person, an event coming soon, and have a great day in the meantime. Many thanks.
Thanks for hosting.
Thank
Many
you.
thanks to you as well.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.